is the UK Brand Show with Penny Williams and Mark Challoner.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, Pen.
And whatever your weather is, because obviously the whole world is going into all sorts of bizarre weather situations at the moment, isn't it? I think America's got full-on ice and snow. Even my family down in Louisiana are seeing some snow and ice at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird times in more ways than one.
Oh, I'm so bored of being at home. Can't wait to travel.
Yeah.
Have you had your vaccine yet?
No, I don't know when I'm going to get called. Well,
being
under 30, of course, I have no idea when.
No, it could be ages yet.
Could be years away, yeah. Anyway, welcome everyone to the UK Brand Show, broadcasting to you on YouTube, on Mixcloud, online at the ukbrandshow.co.uk, and about 14 different radio stations taking the live stream across the country. So wherever you are joining us from, welcome.
Absolutely, another exciting guest today.
We have indeed. We have a gentleman called Mark Law, who's the managing director of a top brand digital and marketing agency based in the Midlands called Wilson Cooke. And we're going to be talking to him about all sorts of different things about the digital age and the challenges. And anyway, you'll see all of that. We're talking about culture change and innovation, new ventures and diversity, inclusion, etc.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think that's the big thing at the moment, is trying to have some insight to how the consumer is going to change and the future of branding, marketing, and everything else.
It definitely is, yeah. So we'll get to Mark soon. Really looking forward to him coming on the show. Really top agencies to do some really top work. Before he joins us, which will be in about 10 or 15 minutes time, I've been doing some stuff around a year of life online and what it might be doing to our brains. So I thought I'd just share that with everyone. If I can get to my share
Zoom
screen.
fatigue. A lot of people are suffering with Zoom fatigue.
I think you're right. So let me get that. Can you see my screen?
I can indeed, Mark.
Good. So so this was all born out on the basis of that scientists have been saying that, we've now gone 12 months, haven't we? We've gone 12 months since this. It seems like a lifetime ago, but it's only 12 months of working and socializing online. And it's changed the way our brains function.
So I get confused about what day of the week it is. Do you?
Yeah, definitely. Every day is the same, isn't it? And that's my first point I'm going to come to. Funny enough, you're absolutely spot on. That's exactly what part of the problem, because we've had to constantly refigure the circuitry, if you like, of our brain to these sorts of new challenges, and there've been some effects which I'll go through. About 4 different effects.
Not too many anchor points, is there? So there's not light and shade to figure out, where you are and what day of the week it is.
It's so true. So the first of the 4 things, the first thing is we keep forgetting things. So at the very beginning, we put this down to stress and anxiety over everything from figuring out how Zoom works to ensuring a steady supply of toilet paper or whatever it might be. So why is it still happening? It's most likely due to our dull, samey, screen-filled lives. If you're always doing the same thing, your brain doesn't bother to encode every single thing as a new event. It just goes, oh, that's another one of those. Even if you're doing something really important, the area your brain is associated with memory, it's like, nope, nothing new here, don't need to bother,
Yep,
definitely. And it's an area called the hippocampus part of your brain, and it needs different and novel environments, plus a physical space to fire it up properly. So a lot of us are sort of having the same conversations with our families in the same room over the same devices as work conversations. So there's nothing to distinguish each one. Is that so true, isn't it? With screens,
it's really true.
There's almost like an impoverished level of sensory input to contend with as well. The less you engage, the less you remember. And there's no easy solutions to this. Those who have the time could try and take up new activities or telling others about them to help them encode the memories. But all you can really do, I suppose, is try to move rooms. I mean, I'm guilty of this. I sort of sit in the same sort of spot every week and do the same stuff, same shows, same Zoom calls, etc., etc. So try and move rooms when you're working and have different environments to stimulate your brain differently, and then maybe have walk-in meetings or walk-in phone calls. It doesn't always work. I had someone recently who was doing a board meeting, and the board heard lots of noise in the background and said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just walking the dogs. And his view was, I'm just trying to get a new environment to think in and think differently. Whereas it didn't go down too well with the more traditional people who were on the call, as it happens, who were like, you're not taking this seriously. So there's a fine line, isn't there? There's a fine line.
But being outside and having some fresh air, it's got to be part of breaking up the day. It
has. So the first thing, if we do forget things, and you've just got to try, because you've got the same environments, you've got to try and keep it fresh and motivate yourself in different ways, stimulate your brain in different ways. Second one is all about our brains missing trivial chit chat. So the sort of casual chit chat in the office does actually perform a useful function. So it provides us with a natural screen break and relief from actual work, but it also prompts our memory. So if you say to a colleague, and you can relate to this, I'm sure, if you say to a colleague in the office, remind me to get some milk on the way home, they probably won't. But the fact that you've articulated it is a step closer to you actually doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we use sort of social chit chat as a part of the sort of memory mechanism, and the loss of it is significant. When we speak to people on Zoom, it's often not that sort of chatty, trivial stuff that we would say in real life. It's different, isn't it? You do hold back.
It is different. Yeah. And there is that, particularly once you have more than one person on the call. I think the etiquette is still quite hard, and there's sometimes a delay because of technology. So you can't, people talk over each other too easily, don't they? So I think you tend to then not say something. It's an alien environment for us.
I was thinking actually with us too. So normally we would be in the studio in Ashford. And just stupid little things, like I would arrive and I would go make a cup of coffee. I'd get a custard cream out the jar, sit down, and you'd come in. Do you want a coffee? Do you want a biscuit? Just nonsense conversation, chit chat. But it all helps stimulate the brain a bit, doesn't it? But now we don't tend to do any of that because you just do what you have to do on Zoom. There's none of that.
You're more active, aren't you? You just said, you're walking into somewhere, you're making something. You are more mobile as well. It's so easy. I've had days where I've found myself literally sat at my dining room table the whole day and I've barely moved. And that's just not healthy, is it?
No, it's not. And because we've all got fewer anecdotes to tell each other now, because frankly, most of us aren't doing anything very interesting. As you say, being stuck at home all the time. No one is bringing any news or anything new back to the house now, which is a loss to our brain, which loves stimulation and novelty stuff and all the rest of it that goes with it. So, a lot of the expert opinion I've been reading about this is saying that, what we should do is try and make time for trivial conversation maybe at the end of the day, try and list 3 things that happened and tell your family or your friends, or write them in a diary or something like this, just to expand the brain a bit. So anyway, the third thing of the 4 is our attention spans have definitely got shorter. So even before the pandemic, it was estimated that our attention span was a mere 3 to 6 minutes. And that was according to someone from the California State University. They did a lot of research on this. And they were researching the link between technology and declining attention span for decades now. And they were saying that phones and social media are to blame. And it's likely to be worse now that most people are working from home. There's no one watching over your shoulder now to keep you in check, as there would be in an office. I mean, you'd be doing that in work, wouldn't you? You'd be checking that people are doing the jobs and stuff if you're in the office all the time and they're all there with you. But, I could be fiddling on my phone during a Zoom meeting and no one would know. And the minute a thought pops into my head, I can look it up online or, you don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what you're doing. when your energy is continually diverted like that, you have a very difficult time focusing on anything. So social media, I think, destroyed the memory bit and the concentration bit full stop, because it was easy just to pick up your phone and do it. But now even more so is the point. So this university, California State University, was saying that to increase the attention span, they advise tech breaks. So set a timer for 15 minutes to concentrate on one task only. And when it goes off, set it for 2 minutes for an email or a social media break. And when that alarm goes off, start the 15 minutes again, and so on. And when you get good at the 15 minutes, you start itching it up to until your focus is good for 30 minutes, and then give yourself a 5-minute break. At the end of the 30, carry on. And while you're doing this, they're saying that your phone must be on silence, no vibration, and turned upside down so you can't see the screen even. But it's easier said than done, isn't it? It's too much of a temptation. I think
we're used to having meetings these days, that even the breakfast presenters on the TV are active on Twitter at the same time. I think we are all very used to doing more than one thing, and often, women are better than men at doing that, of course. But
we're multitasking,
we're all doing it,
aren't we? And the fourth one, Pen, was our sleep cycles are confused.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, stress and anxiety ruined sleep. And now that life has settled down, many of us are spending longer in bed, which sounds like a positivity, but it's actually diluting and fragmenting our sleep. So our body clocks are all out of sync, partly because the routines are disrupted, and we're exposed to the blue light of our screens at all hours, and we're not getting enough daylight. And being exposed to bright light in the morning is vital to tell your body to stop producing the sleep hormone, melatonin, to set your internal clock. So again, expert opinion seems to be saying, look, as soon as you wake up, you need to put the lights on, be active, get outside for a walk or a run. And this has more of an effect on sleep quality than anything you do in the evening. It's not all bad. On the plus side, we know how to use screens now for human connection, and our reliance on screens has been a bad thing for work and education, but good for personal communication. So video calling is much better than just picking up a phone, isn't it? You got used to seeing our family, our friends more often, and that's got to be a bit of a benefit, I would think.
It's got to be, hasn't it? I mean, we've all felt this sort of lockdown and being isolated and not seeing, friends and family, but the video calling and use of mobile phones has got to help, hasn't it?
Yeah. And again, there was an expert sleep psychologist saying that, will we be able to dial it back when life finally returns to some kind of normal? And their opinion was, are we going to go all the way back from our average of what was 600 daily minutes screen time to 300 minutes we used to have? And they saying that, no, I don't think so. I think we might go back to 500 minutes, but that presents all sorts of problems to the brains. It makes us less good at making executive decisions and not multitasking and not being impulsive. So overall, it's not being brilliant. The only good thing I could say is that from all the sort of stuff I've read, the summary seems to be, to the question, will we forget how to interact in real life? Well, this occupational health psychologist said that, from Birmingham University, said that, I don't think so. They said that we've got several thousand years of being social creatures, and a crazy 12 to 18 months or whatever it is, or whatever it turns out to be of this, isn't going to stop us. It won't be long before, and they use a phrase, it won't be long before it's like VE days and we're all hugging and kissing in the streets and having parties again. But is that going to happen? Who knows for sure? We don't know, do we?
We're social animals, aren't we? And I think you're right. I think there's still going to be a proportion of people who are still nervous. How long are we going to continue wearing masks? How long will we continue to think twice before we hug someone? I don't know, but we are very social animals by nature, and I suppose they always say kids and young people will bounce back quicker because they won't feel the change quite as much maybe as older people. I don't know, I think this is one of the problems, isn't it? You know, we are in such unknown territory, and you can look back at the Spanish flu epidemic and you know what happened then, but technology was different then. So I don't know.
I know. Yeah, it's the unknown, isn't it? That's the worry bit, I guess. But yeah, hopefully, I sort of tend to be a bit optimistic in as much. I think we will go back once people get it back into the groove again. I take that last point that somebody put from Birmingham saying that we will go back into a mode of normality of what we think is normality. It's just a case of how much and how soon. And it's getting people back into that mode again, which will be the issue, I think. Someone
said to me yesterday, you know, I was saying about the number of recessions that I've worked in, and they said, well, we're not in a recession. We're in a time where there's been built up and pent up demand that we will bounce back, and we will have quite a surge. So I hope they're right.
Yeah, I hope so too. Depression. But we've been joined by Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, thank you for having me, really.
Hey, it's great to have you on board here today. Great to join us. Great that you could join us. No, so we were just talking about the effects of, you know, our life online. We've been a year now, and just seems like 10 years, but it's been a year. And the effect it's having on our brains. You know, we're forgetting more, and you know, the sleep patterns are out of sync, and the rest of it. And it's not all bad, but it seems to be a lot of it's bad. And are you finding that you've got a staff to worry about?
Yeah.
How have they coped with it all?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly well. I mean, I think the monotony of it's like the Groundhog Day concept, I guess, isn't it? You do tend to find that all days blend into one. Weekends are not really weekends as they used to be. So you have conversations, certainly when I'm talking to the team and asking how they are and what they're up to, you tend to hear the same message, which is, you know, nothing's really, you know, it's all the same. The weekends are the same. So I think that's a big challenge at the minute. This third lockdown seems, I don't know how you found it, seems to be really, really long. And I mean, with the weather, how it's been, the first one, the weather was fantastic to start with, and there was quite an excitement around it, I suppose, to a certain extent. Obviously, it was a difficult time, but it was a there was a novelty feel to it. So you kind of rode that wave a little bit for the first few weeks of it, and the weather being great, so you're able to spend time outside. But this one's been, January is a tough month anyway. This has been a real grind. And I think everybody's probably feeling that general lag through it now, and just hoping for something different. I think that's all you crave, really, isn't it? Just be able to do something a little bit different and kind of.
Have you got a bunch of people working from home? You're not back in the office, Mark, are you?
So we we were relatively fortunate in the sense of how we haven't been in the office for a year, so we've had an office sat there for a year in Manchester, which is relatively difficult from a cost perspective. It's quite a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. But we were prepared. I had a kind of vision. We moved into Manchester start of 2019. We'd moved from Bury, which is just outside Manchester, and but we'd moved with a kind of long-term vision that I had, which was this kind of full flexible model, whereas we've got this central space, but people could, in essence, decide where they can do their best work. It isn't always a case of forcing people into a single place to do work that's just perceived to be the best place for them, both location and time and so forth. So we were ready, as in like operationally, systems wise, we were good in the sense that once we knew that we were going to have to close the office in March, that we were up and running the next day. There was no drop off, there was no lag or anything like that. But I never made the decision to reopen the office because it never felt as though it was going to be a long-term thing, if that made sense. It was always felt as though there was something around the corner. And what I didn't want to have to do is open the office, open, close, and do all the kind of, and we were operating really well. The team was happy where they were, and everybody felt more comfortable. In a sense, instead of feeling our team feeling the pressure to come to the office, maybe they didn't want to, maybe they'd feel pressure to come if we chose to open it. So I never even went there. And to be honest, we're now in a situation where I'm in the process of trying to sublet it. We won't go back to the office. We'll be a full, and like I say, it starts to bring that vision that I had forward. It's a little bit quicker than we planned. But we've seen that we can operate effectively as a dispersed team. People are comfortable working from home, and there'll be a balance though. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be everybody working from home forever. We'll find a balance, which I think most companies and people will find once we move through this. And that'll be, and the idea I suppose I've always had is that the flexibility is very personal. I mean, you can issue flexible policies and so forth, but they are relative, really. One person's flexibility is another person's straitjacket to a certain extent. It's really relative to individual circumstances, and that's what we're going to build is a company that we are able to attract talent from anywhere. Doesn't matter where they are. We don't have to look at a radius around Manchester to be able to bring talent in. We want talent from anywhere. We just want the best people that are going to do the job that's for us, and they can then ultimately help determine what's right for them, both individually, both within the pods or the divisions, what is right for those groups of individuals. And I think that's what we'll ultimately get to, is we'll have this real flexible flow where we will need to be together at times, but that's probably not going to be as much as it was. And
is that going to be some sort of WeWork? Some sort of WeWork environment?
There's so much available, so much available, and there'll be more popping up everywhere now. I mean, Manchester's cranes and cranes and cranes all over the place. So it's so those spaces, I mean, there's loads about anywhere. So yeah, it'll be those type of flexible spots really where we don't have to commit to longer expensive leases. We can really be, and what we ultimately become as an agency and is we can be where we need to be. So wherever our clients are, we can be there. Do you know what I mean? We don't have to be a Manchester agency. If we've got clients scattered all over the UK, we can be with them, and we don't have this office with this lease that kind of roots us in, and the flexibility and agility that provides us is massive, really, and that's where we'll be, really, which will be great. And like I say, as far as hopefully talent attraction and the correct balance, which everybody's, I suppose, trying to find, that work-life balance, that age-old kind of mantra. What is that? That'll all work itself out, but we'll hopefully be in a situation where we can be super flexible with that as far as what individuals need. And that's quite exciting, really. So it's an exciting time in that sense. One
of Penny's has she runs a charity called the Kenwood Trust. Is that similar to your experience, Penn, in terms of staff coming back to the office and all?
Yeah, well, we're just debating it at the moment. Our new financial year starts in April, and I feel the same, that a lot of people have worked very effectively from home because we're a care setting. We have to have people in 24/7. But also we have to protect our residents. So the head office teams are all pretty much working from home, and I'm not sure that will change. I think we've got to wait and see. And what concerns me is how you bring people back together. I mean, one of the things that we've been trying to do to generate more money as a charity is we've leased out some of our office space, and we're also doing virtual offices, and we have a conference room. So I've been debating whether I increase the technology in that, but I actually think our unique selling point is going to be people coming to meet each other once in a while because they've been working at home, and it's good. It is still good. Mark and I were just debating. It is still good. We're human beings that do like to see each other, and not all virtual. So I think it's really flexibility. You're spot on, and but I think people will still want to come together. So yeah, we're probably going to continue to work from home, Mark. A lot of the sort of admin and office staff.
Yeah.
So Mark, tell me.
Sorry.
So carry on.
No, I was going to say the transition out of this, I think, is big. I think we talk. I mean, there's a lot of debates, a lot of talks about normal and going back to normal. I think it is normal. I mean, we're building habits. We're building habits all the time. We're a year into this, and whatever it's 18 months to build habits. We're getting into that realm now where this isn't. If this had just been a few months, then it comes and goes quite quickly. But now we're kind of rooting in habits here, and that's what looks like out of that is going to be interesting, because that's going to take time. It's going to take quite a long time to readjust, and it'll then be whatever that looks like afterwards. Will be having flexibility being the key, really, because it'll be you want freedom, don't you? I think that's the thing. People want, if you're going to come together, you want to be able to come together because it's the right thing to do, and you want to be able to do it. And I think that's probably what everybody craves at the minute. Is people crave being able to make a decision or be able to do something because that's what you want to do, not being kind of hemmed in. And it is like that claustrophobic feel that it kind of starts to feel like now.
So Mark, whatever structure your company looks like going forward, tell me a little bit about. Well, firstly, tell me a little bit about you and your background and where Wilson Cooke comes in, because we've been looking at your website, Penny. We love it. Yeah, it's great. Wilson Cooke website. So tell us a little about you and your company and what you do, because it seems to me you've got a great position as a leading brand and digital marketing agency there.
Yeah. So we've been around for a long time. So Wilson Cooke as an agency has been around for 30th year this year. So it's a long-standing agency. I'm the group managing director. So I've been with the company for 11, 12 years now. Managing director for 6 of that. And it's an exciting time for us. I mean, fast growing as an agency, and we've done quite a hefty restructure this year. So we've split into 2 distinct divisions. We have our brand performance division, and they work with agencies around brand positioning, leading into performance marketing. So it's all about positioning your brand to then perform the best it can. And we have a team of specialists, and that's been a really exciting period for us because we've grew that team through the pandemic. We've had 6 people into that team, and which has been which you probably is relatively rare with everything going on. So we've been able to really invest and strengthen that team. And then we have a tech innovation division, and that's again a growing division. What we're looking to build there is a best-in-class division, best-in-class agency, and that's all about, in essence, our team are technical problem solvers. I mean, we work with businesses that have got problems. They know that technology can help them through that. They just don't know how to use it, how to best utilize it, and we're able to help develop bespoke systems and what molds around their business, solves their problems, and often provides huge efficiency and operational gains.
And is that a range of different industries, Mark?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we work across B2B, B2C. We've got a number of high-profile clients that sit across there. We work with Clarity Business Travel, who have a sports division within there, sportsbreaks.com. That came off the back of something we used to do with Thomas Cook Sport, and we helped them build that business up for them with the Jigsaw Housing Group, the Epwing Group. We have Derigold, who are an Irish cooperative that we work with as well. Co-op academies, a number of different industries. Across, like I say, B2B and B2C that sit across those 2 divisions.
How many people? How many staff do you have?
So we have 15 that sit across the 2 divisions at the minute.
Okay.
And like I say, that's grew rather rapidly over the course of the last few months. Certainly through this pandemic, and huge aspirations and plans to grow that further throughout this year. We've seen, like everybody, we saw a drop off in the first quarter. Our first quarter pretty much sat around the start of that first lockdown, but we've grown an average of 35% in Q2 and Q3. Q4 will go the same direction. So we're in a great position to we're not just kind of making us way through this. We're thriving through this, really, in the sense of how we've been able to really rapidly recover from that kind of first, I suppose, bump everybody had. But a lot of our businesses now are, a lot of our clients that we work with they're carrying on as normal, to a certain extent. Relatively fortunate, I suppose, to a certain extent, that we don't work in some of the industries that are really struggling, that are really having issues. So yeah, we're in a great position when we do. Say we're moving into the end of our financial year, we're moving into the next financial year to really explode out of this and thrive out of this, really. And that's what you want. You want to be well positioned to be able to win off the back of this, and that's what we'll be able to do.
So in the last 12 months, I mean, what would you say you've learned? I mean, it must have affected your work, the whole sort of COVID situation, and I guess there's a lot of people going to be listening to small, medium enterprises who are sort of saying, what has it been strong leadership that's got you through? Is it an intense knowledge of digital, or what have been?
Yeah, I suppose a combination. I mean, digital, really. I mean, it's all about digital. It clearly is, because of what's been stripped away from people. So being well positioned digitally, and we've been in that game for so long that we know what we're doing. And the brand performance arm that works within that works heavily with B2B as well as B2C. And obviously, a lot of businesses have then shifted towards going direct to consumer, because I think that's been important, in a sense. There's been a layer stripped away from certain companies, because high streets and other areas being closed has meant that you've got to try and find ways to find your consumers, and that's where we're really well positioned, certainly on the brand performance side of things, to be able to support our clients and help them as far as being able to position their brand in the right way, and then obviously go out and find those customers that they need to be able to then work through this. So the digital side, and then on the flip side, on the tech side of things, is there's obviously been heavy investments from many companies knowing that they've probably been found a little bit short in some areas, digitally or technically, to be able to get through this. So that investment that companies have needed to be made, and again, we're well positioned to be able to provide that. And then, yeah, from a leadership perspective, it's communication's key, really. I mean, I don't think necessarily leadership as what's important has changed too much. It's just different now, and it's a little bit more tricky. We've got a dispersed team. We've got, like I say, as we've grown our team throughout the course of the last 3-4 months. We've got people that have never met each other face to face. We've got a team that we're able to integrate and develop and build remotely, which again adds to the excitement of what we're going to be able to do when we can really get together. So we've been able to do all this where we are now, and when we don't have some of these restrictions, it's going to be really exciting. But it's all about leadership, like with anything. It's authenticity, it's strong communication that sits within there. It's being honest and getting out of the way. It's the key thing as well. It's leading from behind. It's offering the structure, the support that everybody needs, and certainly when you don't see people face to face, understanding what your employees need, understanding what you need in order to clear roadblocks for them, and just let them get on with doing what they do best. And I think it's been a big thing really shifted forward. I mean, officers can create micromanagement and can create when you are maybe a little bit of control freak, which a lot of I suppose leaders are to a certain extent. Admit to being that myself, but it pushes you away from that. You just you've got the right people, you've got the best people. You trust that they can do their job, and that trust, the elevation of trust is massive, because you're not watching people all day, and that's great as well. It's a massive leap forward collectively, and you just let them do the great work. When you're there, if you need them, and you just shepherding them in the right direction and providing that kind of strong direction and goal.
What you're saying actually is exactly what I've heard in whether it's a small or a large company. I mean, I was interviewing for a media webinar I do recently, the new CEO of the Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones out in New York, and he was put into the job last autumn, and I interviewed him 2 weeks ago, and so here we are 4 or 5 months later, and he's only ever met 20% of his staff. But he's got to, as you've just said, rely on the people that they've got the skills, and his leadership style has changed somewhat because it just has to adapt to the environment you're in. Suddenly, it's basically what you're saying, isn't it, really? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm the only person that's met everybody face to face in our agency, which is and that's purely because around Christmas I did some bits where I dropped some because we did like a remote Christmas party where you do things over Zoom and so forth, and I just dropped some little kind of drinks and food off for everybody. So that's the only time that I got a chance to go and see everybody really, and seeing people when they joined us. But that's always strange really when but you're also then sitting from the sidelines and watching a team forming, and they're building their own mini cultures that sit outside of or around the wider company, and that's really exciting to see. But the other key thing there is recruitment. I mean, we recruit really heavily on science. We use psychometric testing, and we have a trusted partner that helps us with that. And when we bring people in, they have to meet certain criteria, and if they don't at that first stage, we don't compromise, and that again makes a big difference, because then we know the type of people that we're bringing in, and we know that they can thrive in the environment that we have, the environment that we provide, and then you don't have to worry about some of the areas that you don't want to have to worry about. I mean, you know you've got the right people, you trust that they're going to make mistakes, everybody does, but they're going to be goal orientated and focused and driven to put those right, so you don't have to worry about some of the other areas really. You know you've got good people.
So psychometric testing is an interesting one, Mark. Is that something which you would lay down the laws on yourself and determine yourself, or is it AI based, or how does it work?
Yeah, it works across 3 different areas. So you look at them at home in the work and an aptitude test, and then that draws together a profile. And we've been doing this for a number of years now. So we have templates and profiles that we know the type of people that work for us, and ones where profiles are not quite right. That's not to say that they're in any way, shape, it just doesn't work for what we are as an agency. Agency life, it's a difficult life. Agency life, it's not an easy space to be in. You've got to know what you're getting into in that area really, because it is pressurized, and there's time deadlines. You're working with clients, and you've got demands that sit around that. So we know the type of profile that works, and because of the company that we use for this, we've been working with for a number of years, they understand us, they understand what we need. So we have this template of and it's relatively fixed in the sense of having this template of the type of person that we need based on the role, and it varies a little bit role by role, but we know what type of individual we need, because that's the area that's the hardest thing to change. I mean, you can teach people skills, and you can people develop and learn. That's not the problem, but when it comes to their kind of innate personality and what drives them forward, if you don't get that right, then it's really, really difficult to change. So we use that really heavily when it comes to recruitment. And then after that, once you tick those boxes, then you move into everything else, and you move into whether they've got the capabilities for that job. But heavily on personalities is something that I'd massively recommend. It made such a difference for us.
How interesting! Yeah, do you do that, Pen, at all?
I have done in the past. I don't at the moment. To be fair, on the charity side, it's very difficult to get people at all, let alone start going through psychometric testing. But in the media side, I've always used psychometric testing. It really, you're right. There's media or agency is a tough environment. You have to have a certain type of personality really to excel in it.
So Mark, coming back just this concept of leadership, I mean, what being in the position you are in, what would you say that in, if you like, a post-COVID environment, if we can dare think about that? I mean, what would you say has changed to what skills do you need, would you say, today in a post-COVID world to be a leader in business? How might that have changed?
Yeah, I think it's been able to lead people that you aren't there with all the time, and that's the biggest thing I'm learning about, and that's something that I'll develop and just try and get better at all the time, because leading a team that is largely dispersed, and that's going to be what it's like going forward post COVID. It's still going to be in most situations, say every situation, but in large amounts of companies, it's going to be, you're going to have people in and out of the office far more less structured as it was previously. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30, whatever is going to be largely gone in most situations. So leading teams that you are not necessarily seeing all the time, face to face, and being able to convey that really strong kind of communication to a team that you're not necessarily sitting in front of and talking about, and that's a big thing really. And communication has always been important for leadership anyway. It's always key really to have clarity as far as what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's just going to be, I would say it's going to be harder. It's not easy anyway. It's just going to be a little bit different now to be able to do it in a situation where you've got people that are potentially not in the office, but I say if we move in the direction that we're going to move as far as being able to recruit the best people for the job, irrespective of where they're positioned, it might be people that you very rarely see, because they could be positioned anywhere, not just in the UK, but outside of that really. So that's going to be a big thing, and like I say, providing that flexibility and that structure, I think is going to be key, is having the trust that you've got the right people, so you don't have to think about, are they doing the work should be doing, what they're doing at this time, what's timesheets and all that type of stuff, which kind of need to move away from, because it's not necessarily about, are they sat at their desk at this time? It's do they need to be sat at the desk at this time? Is what they are trying to achieve. Where are they best being positioned? What's the best environment for them to do the best work of their lives? And that's going to be very different to what it used to be, because the concept of you're not at your desk, you're not working is happily and rightly, in my eyes anyway, is moving away, because it is rubbish. We know that's the case really. It doesn't make a bit of difference if you sit at your desk for 7 hours. You know full well that people don't sit and work for 7 hours non-stop at 100%. It doesn't work. So now it's about, right, how do you get the best out of people? And that just, for me, is great, because you've got a far wider window as far as not just this 7.5 hours a day. So trust is a big thing, and letting go, let go, like I say, clear roadblocks, let people do the best work and get out of the way, and let them do their job.
I guess it's a mix of letting go.
Too much.
Well, I think it's probably that, exactly that, and layered on. I would say I ran a media masterclass recently for World Media, and we had Voices Institute talking about their latest studies, and they were saying that the problem they found in organisations with leadership is you have got to get out the way and let people get on with it. But at the same time, the people at the top need to know what's going on at the bottom. And very often there's a massive disparity between, you know, only something like 10% of what's happening at the bottom, if you like, of the pyramid is known by the top of the pyramid. And that's a difficult one. Do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, we're relatively small, I suppose, in that sense. So it's, but as we look to scale and grow, it's a challenge that we're going to have to figure out. And I think you're right, because you kind of try and find the right balance between a relatively flat structure, but also knowing that, I mean, flat structures don't really exist, even though companies will try and claim they do. There's always somebody in charge. It's just the nature of the world, isn't it? It's just the way it is. And it's about giving people the autonomy that they need to be able to get their work done, knowing that they've got the correct structure around them. And a lot of this for me comes to how you develop people within your organizations. And we have a structure in place. So once we've gone through the recruitment, that we have a clear structure of how we develop individuals and one-to-ones and all that type of stuff that we do, and making sure that someone's got someone to talk to, they know who it is that they need to speak to if they need help. And that's layers up from there, really. So you've got the right level of management, if that makes sense. You don't want too much in there. You don't want overbearing, because you can just have a lot of admin in there. So you do want to have this kind of concept where people can self-manage, but also know that they've got the right community. Because everybody needs someone to speak to, everybody needs someone to go to. There's always going to be a situation where that's needed. So it's creating that structure that's got that right levels. And the way we are at the minute, we don't need too much, because we have pods. And we try and develop pods where you don't get pods bigger than 6 or 7. You don't want anything too big, because everything scales nicer then. You don't then source and think, how do we manage this big behemoth of numbers, really? Break everything up. It's the agile concept, I suppose. Take something big and make it small, and then it becomes a lot more manageable. And then the communication, how you know what's going on, becomes a lot easier, because you just have to replicate that across. So yeah, it's finding that right structure that works, and not layering too much on. You have too much admin, too much management, and then you lose everything, really.
Within your company, Mark, are things such as diversity and inclusion, which we keep hearing more and more about every day, is that a factor in your world?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we've got 4 of us that own Wilson Cooke. Nicole, who's who heads up our brand performance division, one of our directors. She heads up that division. And we always look for the right people for the right roles. I mean, we've got a relatively good blend as far as male and females that sit within the agency. But it's about right people given the opportunity, really, and right people in those right roles. And that's what we really focus on. It's not necessarily a problem for us, but it's something that you always need to be aware of, isn't it? Really, just making sure you've got the right people in the right roles, and there's nothing that stops that happening, irrespective of backgrounds and so forth. So we're well, I suppose, in that situation that we've got Nicole heading things up creates a nice balance that we need, really, in that sense.
Good. And the other thing which I was going to ask about is your process for innovation. So you have a bunch of clients who all want differing needs. Do you offer what I would call, say, a 360-degree view of whatever you want, we can supply it? Or is it more about owned media and we can supply? And I'm thinking in terms of relation to media companies, I know, whereby they've gone through this dilemma of, what do we offer to our clients? And they've had where is that agency model? Is it broken even, from publisher to agency to client? Do they go direct? And what do they offer and what they not offer? I mean, where do you stand in all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we try and be, from a brand performance perspective, it's very data focused. It's really heavily around making sure you get a return investment, value for money. What I always recommend to anybody is make sure you know where your money's going. If you're spending money on marketing, then you need to know. Because we've seen a lot of clients that come to us and they don't really know where their spend's going, and that's the recipe for disaster, really, in the sense of just not getting that value. So we have specialists that sit within there, and we are heavily focused on, which is where we talk about the brand performance. It's about brand positioning first. It's about making sure you understand where your brand sits within your market and what it is that you're trying to achieve. And we really kind of align ourselves with our clients' goals. And then everything from a performance marketing is wrapped around that. So we're doing everything to try and achieve that particular goal. And that's works brilliant. It works brilliant, and that's the team that we've got set up there, and the specialists that we've got within those roles allow us to cover all those touch bases that we need to be, whether it's paid media or content marketing or whatever that might be that sits across that, and social and search. And then on the tech side of things, this is the area that we've got kind of huge excitement about what we're trying to build there, because it really is. It's the problem solving side. That's where different types of innovation. Innovation is always difficult work. So everybody thinks innovation needs to be something new. It really doesn't. You can take age of technology, make it do something that it's not done before, and innovate with that. So you don't always have to be thinking about new things.
I guess it's about refining your processes, even just as simple as that.
Absolutely, yeah. Internal innovation, company that you can do operationally, which is great as well. And that's what we can do from that technical innovation side of things is work with our clients, understand their problems and how technology can be used to help alleviate those. And like I say, a lot of time that can be whether it's understanding data and finding ways to be able to show that data, whether it's integrating in with various systems to create operational efficiencies, or whether it's building brand new systems because something that you're doing is manual or you're repeating tasks on a manual basis and you need to automate and move yourself forward in that way. And that again, in the past, some of the work that we've done with a number of different movement manufacturers has created massive amounts of operational efficiencies because we've been able to take some of the day was taking a week to do. When it comes to specifications, and we've got a specification system that we've developed that used to be done manually. It used to take a week to turn these quotes around. That we built systems that use apps and so forth that allow them to do this in a matter of hours, and that creates huge amounts of operational efficiencies and hits bottom lines and makes them money. So that's the type of innovations that we love to work on.
Sorry, you cut across you there. You carry on.
No, I was going to say, I'm interested, from a customer point of view since COVID, are you getting any changes in requests? Are many of your customers changing their strategies? Do they therefore want a different service from you? Whether it's more digital, less digital, TV, print, what's the sort of mix? What's the sort of
I mean we're digital focused anyway, quite heavily digital. It's certainly more in that area. That's the space everybody knows they need to be in because it's the one area that doesn't get turned off, and that's the key really over the course of this last year. It's the channels that can't or don't get turned off, and that's probably the big thing that we've seen is that anywhere where people have got heavy presence on whether it's retail or whether it's just outside space where the restrictions of movement are there, but everybody's online. Everybody's been forced online more than they were previously anyway. I know everybody were already heavily connected, but at home now, whether it's kids being at home or whether it's people being at home more, everybody's connected now. Everybody's connected online and that's all kind of elevated up. So digitally is the big thing really, is that our clients and whether that's existing or ones that we've acquired over the course of the last year, no, digital is the area that need to be, and that's what they come to us for, whether it's digital solutions or it's performance marketing, but it's largely digital focused. Offline, we haven't had a great deal that we need to do just because it's I mean, you've still got the same challenge that offline is always a little bit more difficult to measure as well. So you talk performance offline, the offline marketing is always a difficult one as far as measuring success on that. So when it comes to be able to, and there's always a blend that you've got to find, but digital is an area where you can invest money and know exactly what you're getting back for that. For every pound that you spend, you know what you're generating.
So what are the elements under digital? It's you're right. I think there's so much more now under that banner, but is there a shift to anything in particular, or just what's the sort of subcategories?
Yeah, I mean, paid's always going to be important, but again, it depends on what it is that you're trying to push and what it is that you're selling. But obviously, paid, whether that sits across Google or display or any of those advertising models, that there's always going to be an aspect that we do
social
a
media.
lot in. And social media and content. Content's massively important. It's massively important before, but content lives forever. Excuse me. That's one of the big things when it comes to investing within digital platforms is building content, whether that's video form. A video is big anyway, but video is a big one. But even the written word, because it's gonna sit there and it's gonna live forever. And Google doesn't tend to forget things. So sitting across those is massively important, because that's how you build that long-term search presence as well. And then sitting within that, you've got social, which is always is growing and understanding the new channels that I suppose exist within that. But social is a big one, because again, because of people being pushed, whether that's remotely and then being more connected, social media is again been seen as far as how important it is that sits within that. Excuse me. So you've got those areas that really are key, and it's finding a right blend based on what it is, and that's where the brand performance and the brand positioning piece comes into play. Is understanding your market, understanding your customers, to know where you are best investing your money, and where is the place that you need to be, because it isn't a one size fits all, and it isn't a case of a model that works based on percentages or anything like that. It's understanding, right, okay, well, this is where I need to be, and this is and also being flexible with that. And that's the key thing with performance marketing, is understanding the metrics, understanding your KPIs, really understand the figures and the data, and that's where, like I say, we come into this. So then we're able to make sure that we can really maximise that spend in the right place, and, like I say, reacting to what's going on. So you can shift.
If people want to see more of your work, where should they go and take a look?
Yeah, so the website wilsoncooke.agency, which you can go and see on there. We're also across the social channels. So LinkedIn, we've got a lot going on LinkedIn as well. Just search for
that's Wilson Cooke with an E at the end of Cooke.
Yeah, it's Wilson Cooke with an E.
Agency. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Anybody wants to look me up, again, LinkedIn, you probably see me around Manchester on a bike knocking about, if anybody fancies a ride over there as well. You can get me at Mark at wilsoncooke.agency also. So anybody's got any questions or fancy a chat, just give us a shout.
Well, it's fascinating hearing what, from inside an agency, actually, because we often hear from clients or brands or whatever, and it's good to actually hear the people trying to develop brands and clients in a way that is more intuitive than it ever was before, and more creative than it ever was before. And I believe it. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen you've been doing on your website, it's all about creating a better experience these days, isn't it? More experiential stuff. Absolutely, more of a immersive type thing, and I think things like mobile and stuff, for me, that's just been a big key thing for developing the future. So it's fascinating, and thank you for your time. And before you go, I've got to talk about one little thing, because I know that we both share a passion in life.
Yes,
it's hard to talk about it, isn't it? Liverpool Football Club.
Yes. I'm going to be super positive and say we're going to be all right. The team's too good, and we're going to be okay.
We're going to win the Champions League still.
I think we'll win tonight. And I think we'll. I think we'll be okay. I think it's a blip. I'm confident that we will.
What's the old thing about form is temporary,
permanent.
Permanent.
Yeah. We'll win the league next year. We'll win the league next year.
Listen, Mark, thank you so much for your time.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
It's been great. Thanks for now. We'll see you again.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Bye now. Bye. Goodbye. So there we go, Pen.
Yeah, I could have chatted for a lot longer.
Yeah, me too. The hour's gone really quickly, I've got to say.
Yeah. Well, I just think there's so much changing at the moment. It's nice to learn what other people are experiencing with their customers. And
I do find it fascinating that wherever industry we look at, whether it's media, we've looked at media in the past few weeks, and looking at agencies today here, the parallels are very similar, aren't they? Everyone's in the same boat, just at different points of the perspective, and it's we're all in this together. It really are. This pandemic has really leveled everybody to a certain core set of principles which we need to either embrace or change, and we're all doing the same sort of thing, just in a slightly different creative way. So anyway, fascinating stuff. So that's it for this week.
It is. So you can listen to more of our shows on the ukbrandshow.co.uk website, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Can indeed. And we'll be back soon with more guests and more insights. And in the meantime, the message from today, beyond what we've just heard from Mark, is get outside, get some fresh air, get some creative thinking, sleep well.
Yes.
And try and put yourself in a different environment, even if it's a different room in the house, just to create your brain and get your brain working in a different way.
Yeah, most definitely, until the spring comes, and then we can all get out a lot more.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.